Oh my goodness. It is Friday the 13th. I actually brought that up to my son today, Sammy. I'm like, it's Friday the 13th. He's like, I've never watched any of that. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But look who's back. It's Sam Betesh. After a few weeks not being able to sync up, he's got his hockey team all over in Italy right now. So he's not
very
working
international
games. He's got a little time off and he can give it to us. Sammy, good to see you again, brother. How are you, pal?
I'm great. I'm honored that we're doing Friday the 13th. And I had the same conversation with Levi, the 4-year-old today. Friday the 13th. I didn't want to say it was about a movie. I wanted to say it's more about being scary, superstition. I could see it wasn't really firing with him. But if I said movie, guess what he'd want to do? Sit and watch the movie. That's it. He is so locked into that idea of a movie and what it means to do it. And I actually kind of think he'd sit there and watch Friday the 13th with me. He's got that in him because I am horror movie guy. I think I could get in there. I don't think mom would love that. Allie would not be thrilled if she walked in and saw us doing that. But
my 4-year-old would be down with a horror movie. Jack is 6 years old. He had to dip out of Pirates of the Caribbean when all the skeletons were walking underwater.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, this is a bit too much for me.
Look, so that's real. That shit gets real.
We'll get there a little bit later on, but welcome everyone. Please hit like and subscribe, not just to Damon Bruce Plus, but over at Thinking Out Loud with Siciliano and Sam. And by the way, I'm seeing Siciliano on my Gold network. I'm seeing Siciliano at Media Row. He's one of the first persons that I bumped into as we were picking up credentials. So always good to see that guy. But I mean it, Sammy. It's been a while since you and I have been together, and an awful lot has happened in sports, starting with the crowning of a new Super Bowl champion. It's all said and done. And I can't help but think, Seattle, you earned it. You definitely were the best team all year. But, oh, my God, Los Angeles Rams, did you kind of screw that up? You put up 500 yards up against Seattle and didn't come out of that game with a win. The Rams would have 100% smacked around the Patriots. I'm convinced that the NFC title game really was the Super Bowl, Sam.
It turned out to be, and I've got some really interesting points about the Super Bowl. And I've had time to marinate on it, but I had all of these going into the game. So I want to be clear. This is not about seeing it happen and unfold and then deciding, all right, here's how I see it. There were a few things I was terrified about when it came to this. Number one, the idea of the Patriots winning the Super Bowl. I was shuddering in fear of that thought. And here's why. The Chiefs dynasty was born out of the ashes of the Patriots dynasty, correct? Patrick Mahomes could not beat Brady in that AFC championship where Dee Ford lines up offsides, right? He doesn't beat Brady there. And then Brady leaves the Patriots, wins a Super Bowl, Tampa Tom, through guess who? Mahomes and the Chiefs. So finally Brady says, all right, I'm not playing in New England. I'm not playing in Tampa. Go for it. Have your fun. Chiefs run off and rip an amazing, undeniable dynasty in front of us, right? And then it ends spectacularly to the Eagles in Super Bowl LIX. It's done, right? That's it for Kelsey. The whole thing's gone. Then New England's in the Super Bowl the next year, and it was sneaking up on everybody. Everybody was thinking Seattle and not really looking at the same New England team that knocked off the Rams 20 years earlier, because nobody saw Tom Brady and that team becoming a dynasty behind Vinatieri kicking it and keeping the Rams out of what seemed like an automatic back-to-back for them. So I thought, oh God, here we are again, looking at the wrong thing. And the Patriots with Drake May are going to win the Super Bowl, and that's going to be a dynasty all over again. Thank you, Sam Darnold. Thank you, Seahawks. We don't have to deal with that at all.
I'll tell you what we might have to be dealing with is how rough the NFC West is now set up to be, because the Seahawks have got not going anywhere quickly written all over them. Now the disease of more will absolutely kick in and guys are going to be asking for more, but that is a team that is young and signed, and look out. The Rams, again, just if you didn't think Matthew Stafford should have been the MVP, just look at his numbers against the Seahawks defense when they wilted every other quarterback that played against them. He was prolific against them. So the Rams, obviously, with Darnold coming back for one more year, they're not going through a huge downswing or anything like that. And that brings us to what we're talking about here on the Plus always, and that is some 49ers football. Kruger and I just did a wake up where we talked an awful lot about the rumor that the Minnesota Vikings are looking at Justin Jefferson and thinking it might be time to move on from a contract, as we are going through a soft rebuild right now with a new GM and a quarterback that we're still wondering if he was the right guy to begin with. And what are we going to do? And do we really need to be carrying a wide receiver for this price on this team at this time, which means the Vikings could be coming off Justin Jefferson. And I, 3 weeks ago, was the first to tell you, no, there is no big move. You don't make a trade for Justin Jefferson. You don't make a trade for Maxx Crosby. You're not a guy away. You need your picks. You need an arsenal of guys. But then I kept on thinking about it. And let me tell you, man, if Justin Jefferson were really out there, he might be the one true extravagance that I would allow myself to dream about if I were the 49ers. Wide receiver's a blind spot. Look who you're playing against in your own division. And I have no faith in them to add a wide receiver through the draft or free agency that they will even really like or play very much. And we've just seen that with Demarcus Robinson. Agency hardly got to know him. He wasn't used enough. Every single wide receiver that they've drafted for handfuls of drafts now becomes an absolute nobody almost instantly the minute he puts on a Niner uniform. I wouldn't want to give up the capital, and it would be significant to get Justin Jefferson, but it might be something that the 49ers need to think about, Sam.
All right. You said NFC West, and I want to just at least give a massive tip of the cap to this division that we have been locked in on all season. After the Super Bowl and before going into it, I said to myself, this is the season of the NFC West. I will remember what happened this season because of the NFC West, and here is why, Damon. Think about what happened. 3 teams from the NFC West made the playoffs. All 3 had a chance to win the division with 2 weeks to go in the season. All 3 of them won a playoff game, and the Seahawks had to get through the Niners and the Rams for the right to beat the crap out of the Patriots in the Super Bowl. This was an NFC West season through and through. You had the Niners going from a season that we could all forget a year before into a season where they were playing for the right for the 1 seed at home against Seattle in the second to last week of this season. This was a spectacular run by the NFC West. Justin Jefferson added to this mix. You have to look at the teams that finished better than the Niners this season. How'd Devontae Adams work out for a team that already has the best wide receiver you could say in football right now in Puka Nacua? Devontae Adams and Puka, nice combination. Would you say that Jackson Smith-Njigba has a role in what the Seattle Seahawks do on offense? That
certainly
is
amazing how small of a Super Bowl he had and how convincing they still won that game.
He was out. He was worried. I mean, obviously he had concussion issues during the Super Bowl, but sometimes, again, the Eagles last season, Saquon wasn't the story of the Super Bowl game. He was the story of the Super Bowl season. And Njigba, in many ways, is the story of the Super Bowl offense for this Seahawks team, undeniably so. And you and I spent more time talking about wide receivers that are absolutely irrelevant in the conversation of real wide receivers in this league than we did over the last 4 months of the Niners trying to figure out what they were going to do. This team came off of a wide receiver conversation that was Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk in the conversation of best duos of wide receivers in this league. Then Deebo's in Washington. Ayuk is no longer wanted, and all of a sudden, it is a vast wasteland of hoping that you might get something out of Ricky Pearsall and actually talking about the other St. Brown brother at one point, and then Sky Moore having significant oxygen taking out of the room while we're discussing receivers in this league. How did that happen?
I forgot about Equiminius St. Brown. I got to be honest with you.
How dare you? How dare you?
I forget about him. No doubt about it. Look, by the way, how dare anyone forget about this guy right here? Where there's Ike's of Ike Sandwiches. I want you to go up and sign up for an Ike sandwich today. Make sure you sign up for that Love Rewards program. You'll be very happy that you did. Our good friends at the Dubliner West Portal, thank you so much for pouring the best Guinness in all of San Francisco. And let me tell you, sleeper right now, better than ever. It's the same sleeper that you've always known. It's the same sleeper that you've always enjoyed. It's the same sleeper who right now you can click on the link in the description of the video and sign up using promo code Damon and get $100 matching up to another 100. But right now, it's not just parlays anymore. It's not just fantasy. They have team picks. Team picks for the first time. You can go and just say, what do you think the Warriors are going to do tonight when they come on back from the All-Star break? What do you think they're going to do against the Celtics as they open up the second half? You can just make the play on that game. Sleeper expanding its options. Check it out. Be responsible. Have an awful lot of fun, and thanks to them. Back to what we were talking about. The wasteland of what are you doing at wide receiver would certainly change dramatically. Think about how successful the 49ers actually were throwing the football in spite of the fact that they had a who's who cast.
They had the other, and no one even calls him this, but the other JJ was the number one target for the Niners, right. Especially, certainly when Kittle was injured, obviously, but think about that, Damon. Jawan Jennings, in a conversation where you could be looking at Justin Jefferson, how quickly do we forget Jawan Jennings?
Instantly.
Instantly.
And let me tell you, could you find a better mentor? Let me show you the way. Ricky Pearsall. You haven't had anyone to really lead you here since you've joined the team. And then you know who becomes the best slot receiver in all of football? Christian McCaffrey. Because it's time, I think, Christian McCaffrey is viewed more as a wide receiver coming out for short routes, either out of the backfield or just lined up at slot, than to ask him to have another 480 touches, with the vast majority coming from the position of running back. It's time to get somebody else to run the ball. It's time to put McCaffrey out in the pattern, and it might be time to add a true number one wide receiver, because the argument could be made they did everything they did last year without even a true number three wide receiver throughout their entire offense. So what would the asking price be for the Vikings? Because everything comes with a price tag. And if you want to know what your house is worth in your neighborhood, find another house for sale that's like yours and get yourself a comp pick. Here's what I'm comparing it to. When Devontae Adams was traded to the Raiders from the Packers, he got a first rounder and a second rounder in the same draft to be added to the Raiders. He was 29 years old, 2 years older than what Justin Jefferson is right now. Justin Jefferson turns 27 in June. He would absolutely cost the Niners their first round pick. And he might cost the Niners what is their biggest bargaining chip in Mac Jones. If the Vikings wanted it to be part of that deal, I think that the 49ers would have to make it part of that deal, even though they're telling the entire world, we're not trading Mac Jones. What they're saying is, you better come with your best price.
It reminds me a lot. I look at this and I see the Dolphins here, and you can't say that Tyreek Hill wasn't an incredible addition. There was a possibility that when Tyreek went to Miami, that would have been the end for him. There was as great as he is, and now we can go back and rewrite history that we all thought that was going to be a slam dunk. There was no guarantee that Tyreek Hill was going to go from Mahomes to Tua, and it was going to look exactly the same. And we can say that it did look exactly the same. Tyreek Hill was dominant for 2 seasons in Miami.
He put up bigger numbers in Miami than he did in Kansas City.
Say that out loud and let it sit again. Really? Who thought that was going to happen for Tyreek Hill in Miami? Nobody saw Miami. And at the time, Mike McDaniel, I understand now he's considered the offensive genius, and I love him now back as an offensive coordinator. But we were not thinking that was going to be revolutionary, historic level offense out of Miami. And it was. Tyreek Hill made that kind of an impact in that offense. Justin Jefferson, from an age standpoint, has the capacity to do that. Nobody right now is thinking this would be the end of Justin Jefferson, wherever the next stop is. Nobody's thinking, oh, this could be it, and you're not going to get the same level of Justin Jefferson. Everyone still has Justin Jefferson in a real and a fantasy conversation as one of the guys. You're pretty much having a conversation about Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. That's it. If you had to only go too deep on wide receiver, those would be the two that you would say.
Without a doubt. by the way, the other team that might be in play here is the Buffalo Bills, because they've promoted Joe Brady to new head coach.
Remind everyone who Joe Brady is and where he really made his name.
He was the LSU passing game coordinator. Imagine, as a passing game coordinator, you got to go make your bones, and you got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson.
And here's the best part. Here's the best part, though, Damon. As much as this past college football season gave us history and what Indiana just did,
what happened? What did Indiana just
did anything happen this year? So it was historic. It was historic, though, in how surprising it was. When we talk about the annals of history, it will be remembered. It will be one that I never forget, that Indiana won a football championship. But if you talk about the greatest offense in college football history, there's actually not even an argument about it. It is so far and away the Joe Brady, LSU, Burrow, Jefferson, Jamar Chase offense. It's not even funny. You look at the professionals that were on that, and you look at the numbers they put up. You look at the teams that they destroyed on their way to winning that undefeated national championship for Ed Orgeron. That is what Justin Jefferson can bring to the 49ers. It is watch out. And you're right. The Bills, certainly Brady is scratching around that right now, because he also knows what it looked like when they had Stephon Diggs there and what it looked like when they didn't. Because the only team that was more suspect from a wide receiver standpoint than the Niners this season with a chance to win the Super Bowl was the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, have you seen the Bills stadium that they're about to open? Oh, I mean, just another. That's not good, Levi's. What they're about to open is pretty damn special. By the way, the only other team that I would put up against you is the 2002 Miami Hurricanes.
Okay. But I still think if you went number to number,
Kellen Winslow, the second before he went off his rocker. That was a hell of a team too.
Yes.
I just had to look that up. But it's the only other thing that blipped on me, because that is insane. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Deal with that. Deal with that.
Good luck.
Seriously.
Good luck.
Maxx Crosby is the other guy who made the thumbnail today, because that's a name that now even associating him with the Niners is hard to do, because we know that Raiders and Niners do not like doing business together, period, end of story. That is historical. That is fact. And I don't think that now they're in Las Vegas, Mark Davis is looking to do business with the Niners in any way. But if there is, it seems that there's a problem with Maxx Crosby. And I don't know if Clint Kubiak is the guy who's just going to be able to put the bomb on this. Now, I thought that Kubiak had a really good introductory press conference. He is absolutely the mind, and I think that super religious-y forward type of thing that will really blend well with Mendoza. I think it makes an awful lot of sense. I like his hire an awful lot. It doesn't seem like Maxx Crosby, though, is instantly pivoting to, I was thinking about maybe getting out of here, but I really like this, and I'm gonna. There is discontent in the land of Raiders and Maxx Crosby, and Tom Brady's going to smooth things out. Not necessarily.
I love how everyone now is pretending that last year just didn't happen for the Raiders. You and I were convinced, and largely convinced, because it was the combination of Brady, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Geno Smith, Ashton Genty. And by the way, all of that on paper before this season happened made a lot of sense. It sounded good coming out of my mouth. I enjoyed saying that to people. Watch out for the Raiders. And the cherry on top, I saved Tom Brady's name for last when I listed all of those men. And now we're still coming off of this disaster where they've earned the number one pick. We're really going to sit here and have the same conversation with Tom Brady as the exclamation point. Oh, and they have Tom Brady running things. No. Tom Brady was running things last year. Tom Brady was running things last year for this team that just earned the number one pick. So I cannot, at this point, say that means anything anymore. It just doesn't. I'm sorry, but I will not forget that quickly. Not a part of it for me.
I'll say this. You could literally hear Tom Brady hire Clint Kubiak during the NFC title game. You could hear that his mind was made up in that moment. It really, really was. But there's a story right now, CBSSports.com, and this all started with Jay Glazer
Oh, yeah.
basically saying during Super Bowl week that there is no love lost between the Raiders and Maxx Crosby right now. There's a lot of fence mending that's going to need to happen, writes Albert Breer over on NBC Sports. It goes all the way to the top of the organization with Tom Brady and Alex Guerrero. And it's interesting that Guerrero's name comes up here because I think the big fissure between the Raiders and Crosby was them saying, we want to shut you down, and him saying, I still want to play football. And that was basically them, what do they call it now in the NBA? Ethical tanking. They wanted to attach an injury to the player's unavailability that may have been at worst a lie, at best an exaggeration. It's what Utah just did with Jaren Jackson Jr. They trade for the guy and then say, oh, he needs knee surgery. Well, yeah, that's because everybody found out you weren't playing him in fourth quarters and you're tanking with him. So now you're just going to get him out of the boiling kettle of tanking water and just say, oh, well, he can't play because he's having surgery. He's having his knee scoped. He could be back in 72 hours if you really wanted him.
And if it mattered, they would have him back, and it doesn't. So guess what? See you later, and we'll talk about it next season, and that's okay. What's interesting about this is this brings up a lot of old wounds and a lot of interesting documentary footage that I want to see all over again. Do you remember Tom versus Time, where we watched the magic of what Alex Guerrero did for Tom Brady? Yes. For his body, for his mind, for everything that he did on the field. In many ways, that was an ode to Alex Guerrero. Yes, it was the birth of TB12 for a lot of us, but TB12 is Alex Guerrero. And that came off, as much as that was a production for Tom Brady, it was more a celebration. We knew who Tom Brady was before that. We didn't know who Alex Guerrero was. But when you watch that, you're thinking, oh my God, this guy is the reason that Tom Brady is at the level he is at this age. We're not giving him credit for everything Brady's done in his career, but at this age and at this stage of his career, Alex Guerrero is the reason that Brady is at this level. And yet, still the story came out that the fissure between Brady and Belichick was because of Alex Guerrero. Alex Guerrero was now involved in too many decisions in Tom Brady's life. And yet again, this is going to happen. And the ultimate irony is Alex Guerrero is the reason Tom Brady was on the field as much as possible. And now he's the reason Maxx Crosby is off of it. That's incredible to me.
For a team that just hired a brand new head coach, the answer to the question, who's in charge here, is something that you would need detectives to actually figure out. Yeah. Like, there is no doubt that the head coach is in charge of game day, of putting in the game plan. But in terms of roster construction, how much of it is Brady? In terms of, training table, how much of it is Guerrero? In terms of overall big decisions, is the owner even involved? Should he be involved? He has been involved, and it's been an unmitigated disaster with him involved. So do you back away? I mean, literally, they should only let Mark Davis out of a closet in his jogging suit to walk around a half an hour before pregame kicks off. He shakes hands. He shows everybody his stupid jogging suit. Then he goes, sits in the owner box. I mean, I wouldn't want him involved in a singular decision. But clearly, Tom Brady and Alex Guerrero aren't making decisions that is making the most valuable player on your team, certainly on your defense, happy at all, which is a problem.
Now, let's dissect this a little further, and we're going to talk about Micah Parsons here a bit. And we're also going to talk about Myles Garrett. And here's what I want to say. Micah Parsons, certainly, he got injured at the end of the season, but were the Packers on a steamroll collision course with getting to the Super Bowl this season because of Micah Parsons? There was a moment in time. Where we thought the Packers were significantly better, but
Micah Parsons made the Packers matter probably more than they should have.
Fine. And now here I'm gonna contradict myself. The MVP, which you just said was so definitive when Drake May lost in the Super Bowl, and we all should say congratulations to what Matthew Stafford did this season, and that's absolutely definitively telling us that that's why he won the MVP. Can I just say that it shouldn't have been about either guy? The MVP, the historic season for what we just saw in 25-26, you know who it was about? How about the guy who actually set a record this season? How about a guy who had 3 sacks in a game and it wasn't even his third best game? Myles Garrett had a game where he had 3 sacks, a game where he had 4 sacks, and a game where he had 5 sacks. Myles Garrett was so far and away the best player throughout the entirety of this season. And last year's MVP had two quarterbacks who both would have won MVP over the quarterbacks that were in the conversation for this season. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, a season prior, were historic in their production. Matthew Stafford is definitively one thing from this season: the best quarterback of the season. Yes. In a season where nobody ran away with it. Matthew Stafford was the best quarterback. That doesn't make him the MVP, and it doesn't make him the best player in the league. He is and was the best quarterback of this season, and it wasn't that special when you're talking about being the most valuable player. Myles Garrett, by far and away, was the best player in football this past season when you go back and look at it. And I understand it's difficult because Cleveland didn't win games.
That's the thing. But now, how do we define the word value?
It's tough. It's tough.
Where
it's
are
tough
we?
to say.
What I think needs to be done is like when baseball decided that one MVP for both leagues was just not enough. We're going to need a National League MVP and an American League MVP. And I think what the NFL needs to do is split that award into an offensive MVP and a defensive MVP.
I love that.
Not just have defensive player of the year.
Love that.
An offensive MVP and a defensive MVP. And I almost think that the Super Bowl, like I got no problem with
Kenneth
Walker
winning.
Yeah, I don't no problem with Walker winning that Super Bowl, but it probably should have gone to the leading tackler in that game, which was Ernest Jones.
By the way, how about this? Back-to-back seasons where realistically you should give it to the defensive play caller. The back-to-back seasons, the MVP of the Super Bowl was Vic Fangio, and I think McDonald calls the defense for Seattle as well. Back-to-back seasons where by far the defensive coordinator is the story of the final score of the Super Bowl. And that is the case. That is absolutely. And instead, Jalen Hurts, and I love him, and I'm glad he's a Super Bowl MVP, but the story of that game was Mahomes getting his ass kicked. And the story of this game was Drake May looking too young for the moment because of what the defense did to him. That's it. That was the story of both of those games. You're right, Damon. We need it because the world isn't good at carving out space for defense in that way. And it's a league where the defense is put at a disadvantage each and every week. And so when a defense does dominate in this league, it's worthy of taking a beat and saying, wow, we respect that. We saw that. We acknowledge that. And for
it's
Maxx,
time to have an offense and defense MVP in this league. It really is.
I want to see it. And for Maxx Crosby, I'm trying to talk myself into one of the two arguments. Am I in the camp that believes what I just said, that Myles Garrett was the MVP of the season? Or am I in the camp that says Micah Parsons didn't get Green Bay to the Super Bowl and Dallas was no better or worse without him, frankly? So what do I actually believe? Is Maxx Crosby worth the investment where we know the Raiders have not been on the right path with him, and they've been with him paid and not paid, right? We've now seen the Raiders where Maxx Crosby's making under what he's worth, and we've seen him setting the bar for what everyone should be worth at that position if you are elite. So we've seen both scenarios, and in both, the Raiders are no closer. And you could argue since they've paid him, they've been worse.
By the way, JJ Raider, very happy that we're talking a lot of Raiders here on today's show. JJ Raider, of course, the brand name sponsor of the JJ Raider Ganja Jar. And he also wants to throw in here something that I know we'll both agree with. Al Davis's favorite son was Greg Papa. There's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt. By the way, it was good to see Greg looking so healthy and back and like himself again on Media Row. That was fantastic. Look, like and subscribe if you would, please. Not just here on Damon Bruce Plus, but to Thinking Out Loud with Siciliano and Sam as well. Before we not move on from football, but I want to put this out here because we're evaluating teams. What teams have? Who is in charge here? What's a well-run organization? What's an organization that treats its players right? Who do players want to go play for? I always thought that the player-led report cards were very valuable in terms of pulling back the curtain on the NFL. Forget about asking what media members think teams are getting it right. The most well-fed media member will tell you, this buffet line is so good that I'm going to tell you that the Tennessee Titans are a well-run organization because we had delicious freaking barbecue that day or whatever. You can buy off a media member's opinion with a really well-crafted hamburger at halftime. Teams filing their report cards, players from the Players Union going public is something that the NFL hated. And apparently, Adam Schefter this morning said that the NFL informed all 32 teams today in a memo that it prevailed in its grievance against the NFLPA and its team report cards. An arbitrator determined that the NFLPA's conduct violated the CBA and ordered it to stop making public of any future report card grades. In other words, one of the most insightful mechanisms into who treats their players right is now going to be unavailable. Leave it to J.J. Watt to just put a counterpoint out here when he said, so the NFL won't let actual players grade the workplace that they attend every single day, but they'll allow a third-party grading service to display their rankings on players on national television games every Sunday. And he's talking about
PFF
focus grades, PFF grades.
Interesting.
And he's so right. So, and a third party can tell you what's what, but the players themselves aren't allowed to tell you what's what. That is bullshit. It really is.
Well, it ends the argument. JJ ended an argument that I was going to start because I was about to say, I don't need to know if the players are fed well to decide that that's a great organization. I do enjoy knowing that Cincinnati continues to F it up every season. I do enjoy seeing that Cincinnati is still the worst place to go if you want to be treated right as a player. I mean, that is interesting to see year after year after year, whether they're winning or not, whether it's Marvin Lewis or anybody else. It just continues. So that, but
ownership matters, period.
But do I really? But here's the thing. As a fan, is that something I am supposed to know about or need to know about? I'm not sure. But when JJ Watt says that, you're right. We grade and rank players on everything, and we should allow them to grade or rank their experience. And you don't think they're talking to one another? You don't think the players in division who see each other twice a season are asking each other about what the accommodations are like? It's worth it. It's worth it. When you hear the term the Patriot way, this is where it plays into factor. You hear guys that have spent time in New England talk about how different things were run when Belichick was there and how much it pales in comparison to anywhere else they have been, for better or for worse. Practice was an SOB. Hell week in training camp was different. What we did in practice to prepare for opponents was different than it was anywhere else. I do enjoy knowing that, and we should. If the players are going to be ranked the way they are, great point by JJ. I was ready to argue it, and now I'm not.
I mean, it's about transparency. I mean, it really is. And you can say that there's definitely some players probably out there with some axes to grind, but that gets worked out in the average grade after everyone weighs in. And I'm going to tell you that when you give somebody the responsibility of putting a grade down, for the most part, they take that pretty seriously.
It is serious.
It is serious.
Damon, you and I have done shows where we've talked. You and I did. In fact, I remember we did a show. I think we ranked quarterbacks and we went through, it was either quarterbacks or offenses. At some point we went through, and then we went through Super Bowl champions. I know we did that one. You and I did homework the night before. We wanted to get it right. We didn't want to forget. We didn't want people in the chat to tell us we were idiots for something we missed. We're okay if you're telling us an idiot and we're firmly behind the decision. But if we miss something, we hate that. When we're asked to rank something, we take it very seriously. And the players certainly want to get a message to. And by the way, how many of us at our own job day to day are asked what the workplace environment is like? Companies do this now. They want to know. They want to know what the employee thinks of the experience because they really want to be able to brag to other corporations that people are happy in that workplace. And they want to fix what isn't working internally. And this should work the same way in the NFL.
Yeah, it's not, one of these things is the same as the rest of these things. No, they're very, very different entities, and we need to be able to figure out what that difference is. And, in one case, Hand Banana says, this seems like the NFL wants total control of all narratives, period. There's nothing to see here. What a joke. I would agree. But where you also got it wrong, though, Hand Banana, is I wonder what the NFL will do about the California jock tax situation. York and Levi's will never be getting another Super Bowl. Look, the next Super Bowl is also in California.
Yep.
And what I can tell you, and I've been saying this for years, is the NFL really doesn't give a fuck about a single player in its league And I can prove that by them not having lifetime, medical care for players who play in their league. And if it did cost Sam Darnold more money to play in the Super Bowl, like he actually paid to play in the Super Bowl when it comes to all the jock taxing, the NFL's willing to go ahead and live with that. What do we need to do? Just bump up next year's salary cap another $400,000 a year?
Which, by the way, will happen. Now that it's been said out loud by Boomer, that will happen and that will be addressed. But can I tell you what none of the Patriots or Seahawks were thinking about that week at all? None of them were worried about the tax that they were being hit with to play in the Super Bowl.
No. It sounds like a lot of money to us, but to them, it's just the cost of doing business.
Give me a break. It's the cost of playing in the Super Bowl. How many players would sign up to pay to play in the Super Bowl anyway? Irrelevant. Exactly. Irrelevant in regards to the tax. And let's be clear. I've already said that every Super Bowl should be in Las Vegas, but I'm not going to argue against Super Bowls in California either, because guess where everybody wants to live? And yes, the taxes are higher. Guess what? Damon and I already won. We live in California. That's where everyone wants to live. Go live on the East Coast. Go live anywhere that isn't in California. Go visit California for a week and then tell me you're excited about going back home wherever you came from. I promise you that living in California is an extreme privilege.
Absolutely. And it's so funny to watch the NFL media sort of get that in real time when they came out here. And I'll tell you, if it had been a rainy week in San Francisco, the Super Bowl would have been panned. It would have been awful. But the wet, and you know this, Sammy, because you've lived here, when San Francisco gets her nails done and puts the short skirt on and the sundress, there is no prettier girl in the room. And she was gorgeous for 6 of the 7 days of the week during the Super Bowl. It really was.
Weather not being a factor.
Anyone who came here from Cincinnati thinking this town's a dump was like, oh, we're literally dumping dog food on fucking spaghetti and calling it cuisine. Look at where I am. What are we doing?
It was done so right. And San Francisco is a West Coast version of an iconic East Coast city. That's exactly what it is. San Francisco gets it right in regards to definitively knowing what it is and having an identity. San Francisco nails it and also has beautiful aesthetics attached to it. Congratulations and bravo to San Francisco. And I know you don't love that stadium in Santa Clara, and there are plenty of reasons not to, but overall, as a host city, San Francisco, thank you.
It's too bad that it's spread out. If you just had to make the one trek down to the stadium for game day, that would have been fine. But to incorporate shit in San Jose, and then the team meetings were in Santa Clara, it did get a little cumbersome for the media who was really there covering teams in the game.
From a sports perspective,
Levi Stadium's biggest detractor, I will say this: it popped well on TV for the Super Bowl.
From a sports perspective for that city, I'm going to judge San Francisco on Momos and Pac Bell or AT&T or whatever the hell we're calling it. But that park in the city, the way that it's done, will define sports in a big city for me forever.
Yeah, and put the rest of your shit in Chase Center the next time you do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, San Jose. Here's the thing. San Jose, here's the deal. You don't get the Super Bowl, but you do have Macklin Celebrini. And if you're really right now lining up every single star and saying, all right, well, youth and age and trajectory and career officially matters, there is no bigger star in the San Francisco sports constellation right now than Macklin Celebrini. With all due respect to Brock and Steph and Bosa and Warner and whatever other name you want to throw in there, Logan Webb. We're not going to put Rafael Devers' name in there, not until he hits 74 home runs anyway.
No, Macklin Celebrini is in a conversation already, and I know this is blasphemous, but we're talking about Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Steph Curry, Rick Barry. Macklin Celebrini trajectory is about to be in that conversation.
Well, it's better. Because at no point in time during Steph Curry's second year as a pro were you saying, I am looking at a definite all-time player in the history of the sport where Macklin Celebrini's trajectory he breaks from the starting gate on the same wave of talent that Gretzky, Crosby, Lemieux, the true great,
McDavid,
Maurice Rocket Richard. Look that shit up, kids. This is someone whose first 100+ games in this league stack up against anyone's 100+ games in the history of skating. So and by the way, first goal for Team Canada, Macklin Celebrini.
How just perfect was that? Do you know he scored in every debut that he's ever had? Any debut where someone said, check out Macklin Celebrini, and everyone, and every scout is there. He has scored. He has scored a goal in every one of those debuts. Congratulations, Mac.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. As you put a bow on the NFL season behind us, because we're about to start looking forward, projecting free agency and the NFL draft, obviously. What is your single biggest thought coming out of 2025? Either positive, negative. What is the defining feature of the 2025 NFL season as you look back at it, Sammy?
This backs up something you and I have said very often. We won't judge this until 5 or 10 years have passed. We say that often, right? A trade happens, you immediately want to know, what is this going to do? We said it about Micah Parsons, right? What is it? Can we really, we want to judge things so immediately. The draft that gave us Baker Mayfield 1, Sam Darnold 3, from a quarterback standpoint, then you had Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and Lamar Jackson in the first round. Baker, Darnold, Allen, Rosen, Lamar. Could you have ever guessed that the first guy to show up in a Super Bowl and to win one would have been Sam Darnold? This is simply...
On the day of the draft, you would have pushed more chips into the Josh Rosen pile than you would have Sam Darnold.
Correct. The fact that that was actually a conversation is hilarious, but also a stunning reminder of how little we really know in the end. And we get so worked up for what the draft is, and I understand why and how exciting it can be on that day, but sometimes you gotta just let it marinate for a moment. And we'll all admit, we thought Sam Darnold was spoiled milk. We let it marinate too long, and it wasn't going to happen. Well done, Sam Darnold, and well done, Seattle, and the team I'm thinking about most. We started the show talking about this team, and we're now coming towards the end to talk about this team. But the Minnesota Vikings, if they're not just wondering, what the fuck just happened? Sam Darnold was their story. He was their success story. He was tied to their success. He was considered the key to his success. They backed out of that on their own. They decided they didn't want to be a part of that story.
How about the Titans letting Mike Vrabel go? This guy's the problem. How? How is that guy the fucking problem? Good God.
It was really, really spectacular to watch what Darnold did. And for those in the chat that say Sam Darnold sucks, I'm sorry, but Sam Darnold just gave everybody the middle finger. He's not, how about this? I say this when people want to give me an opinion about Goodfellas, the movie. I say the world is not even interested in your opinion on this movie. We've all, that opinion is etched into history, and it's not a Stanley Cup, but Sam Darnold's name is somewhere that no one else will ever sniff. And who's going to say that this season of Seahawks football, this entire season, wasn't about Sam Darnold in some way? Are you out of your mind? I'm not talking about Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson. Don't you dare put him on that list. No. Sam Darnold, in a game that sucked from an offensive standpoint, first of all, Sam Darnold with his legs made incredible plays in this Super Bowl. When you look at how little New England was giving him to throw the ball, the pockets he was putting it in, Sam Darnold over the last 2 seasons has proven to all of us, get out of my way. I did it. Sam Darnold did it. On a list of shit you want to do in your life, yeah, winning the Super Bowl is on that list. And he is not riding coattails here. Sam Darnold led this offense.
Show up with your criticism. Show up with your reasons to not trust, or I didn't like this turnover. I've never seen a single turnover that I did like. They're all bad, aren't they? But at the same time, Super Bowl champion tends to stop conversations about what guys cannot accomplish.
And he was
in crying shame that Kyle Shanahan has not already ticked this box off. And because he hasn't, it will haunt him until his dying day unless he does it. Sam Darnold might still see ghosts, but he'll never be haunted ever again.
That's it. That's the final bow on that. So go ahead. Sam, you can bring all you want to Sam Darnold, but he proved it wrong. Especially, I'll say this, especially because the Rams are the team that ended it for him in Minnesota with the 9 sacks. He went through the Rams again to get this one. And that NFC Championship, let's be clear, MVP Matthew Stafford, for whatever I may think of the MVP this season.
Right.
Stafford and Darnold, that game was an offensive firepower explosion. Think about how much the AFC Championship game flat out sucked. That game was almost as unwatchable as the Super Bowl. That AFC Championship game sucked, and the NFC Championship game was so good, toe-to-toe, tit for tat, 2 quarterbacks going at it, putting points on the board, and Sam Darnold outplayed. I'll say it. Sam Darnold outplayed the MVP that day in the most important game of Matthew Stafford's career, where he played well. One guy played better at the same position.
Any buzz in LA about this All-Star game? You're right around it. I know that your studios are right next to the old Staples Center there, Crypto, whatever it's called. But this is the Clippers weekend, and it feels like there's going to be more buzz about how they circumvented the salary cap to sign Kawhi than there will be about this game. There are 3 All-Star teams, which means you don't have 2 All-Star teams, which means I already don't understand it. Your round robin 12-minute period, there are very few leagues that put on an all-star or pro celebration of its sport and usually do damage to its own product the way the NBA seems to. What, if any, buzz is there about what I think is the least buzzy all-star game the NBA has hosted in a really long time?
So let's simplify this. Here's what the NBA All-Star Committee can do moving forward. Name players all-stars for whatever bonus they may get, and for being introduced for the rest of their lives as a 2- and 3-time and first-time all-star. Go ahead and hand it to them if you want to send out certificates, plaques, whatever you want. And then put all of your resources into making an incredible Saturday night event and have the players shoot or run or dunk or whatever you want it to be. Do that. Saturday night.
Just get rid of the game completely.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. And I like seeing the rosters. Again, you can even do this. I like the rosters of like world roster versus US roster. I'd rather it more as a debate than seeing it on the court. I'd rather say, wow, theoretically, which team would be better on paper? That's fun. Considering where Wembanyama is at this point, I love seeing the idea of Wembanyama versus anyone else in the league you want to put against him. That's a fun conversation. It's more fun in a conversation for me than it's going to be to watch it on Sunday. So go ahead and do that and send them out that way. You're a world all-star and you're a North America all-star, whatever you want to say. I'm fine with all that. Don't need the game. Saturday night is an awesome event when it comes to exhibition. And it doesn't even have to be called exhibition. It doesn't have to be called game, so then you get caught up in who's really competing and who's really trying harder than the other.
It can't be like, welcome to All-Star Weekend, and now you're dunk champion, Mac McClung.
That's fine. Get guys to participate, because that's the only thing they'll be participating in, right? Again, there's no game. This is not about saving yourself for Sunday. Actually have the dudes we want to see do the things that we want to see and leave it at that. Leave it at that. It is that cool. And by the way, and if McClung wants to introduce the thing by jumping over a ladder, a car, a building, Wembanyama himself, whatever it might be, fine. Have him out there. I'm cool with that. But then let the guys that are here to do it go and do it, and let the 3-point shooter shoot. And if you want to invite Caitlin Clark or anyone else to that, I'm cool with that too, because that was awesome when we saw Ionescu do it. I love that as well. So I'm cool with all of it. Saturday night is doing a great job. And if you put your resources and tweak that slightly, you'd have no complaints on this. None.
How about this? Why don't you just cancel all the bullshit and put Inside the NBA back as your premier flagship show? Colin Cowherd got this right. And I know that it really chipped off and pissed off Charles Barkley, who was like, no, we have an obligation here on ESPN. But Colin Cowherd was right. This used to be omnipresent. It is now vanished. Inside the NBA basically doesn't even exist on ESPN.
I love that the crew is together. Right, breaking that up would have been, I mean, that would have been more devastating than any retirement we've seen in the history of sports. Would have been losing that show in what it is.
But it ain't on TV anymore. It isn't omnipresent. It's not part of the weekly, daily conversation. It is not all over my social media feed anymore. It is gone. It's basically ESPN bought it to hide it. And I'm telling you, all these streaming services, Sam, we can't flip around anymore. It's a pain in the ass to flip around in between games, and that is hurting.
It hurts me and you for sure. It hurts me and you because remote guy is going to be the new screaming on your lawn guy. It's true. That was just a power that is lost. And there's no question I get more than this one. And I'm going to solve it for everybody. So the question you get most often is, where do I watch that? Right? In other words, what umbrella is it under? Are we talking Peacock, Hulu, Netflix, Prime? Nobody knows. And can I just solve this for everyone? Everyone who thinks their television is smart right now, please spend $39 or $49, depending on if there's a sale or not. Buy a Roku, stick it in the back of your TV, no matter how smart the guy told you that it was going to be. It will now be smarter because it's got the Roku in it. When you have the Roku interface, click twice to the search feature and type in whatever your friend is telling you to watch, and Roku will tell you where it actually is and steer you in that direction. It is the cheat code of watching whatever you want to watch these days. And if I have to explain it to my parents this way, I'll explain it to all of you. Don't worry about where it's playing because none of us really care. Right? I mean, if we're in LA and if we're in the industry and pitching these things on the Paramount lot, I get it. We want to know where it actually is, but we don't really give a shit. We just want to watch it if someone told us it's cool. Roku makes it that simple. Do yourself the favor.
There you go. And on that note, are you ready for a little today in history? I
can't wait. I'm excited.
Sammy, we always begin with happy birthdays. Happy birthday to Rizzo of the Pink Ladies herself. Stockard Channing, 82 years old today. One of the best actors. I mean, Stand and Deliver. You watch Stand and Deliver tonight, you're going to watch it. Edward James Olmos, 79 years old. Peter Gabriel. It's rare, Sammy, that someone exiting a band would be the best thing that ever happened for the band. And the best thing that ever happened, Peter Gabriel, the solo act was so much better than Peter Gabriel, the lead singer of Genesis. And obviously they brought up Phil Collins. That's one of the all-time AAA to Major League promotions of all time. It worked out well for everyone. When
in your eyes, Peter Gabriel. Yes.
Great song. You're a Liar. Henry Rollins, 65 years old today, a poet, a punker, a skateboarder. He was so early 90s. It was so early 90s. Robbie Williams, who is the British pop star, Robbie Williams. He had a movie come out where like he was being played by a monkey or something. You see that?
I didn't see that. Now I have to.
No one's seen that. But happy birthday to one of the single best ever to do it. Randy Moss is 49 years old today. And
by the way, his son was also, by the way, Randy Moss, quick shout, was also his son was the tight end of that LSU team we said was the best offense in the history of college football.
Not bad. Not bad. Mira Sorvino.
Mira Sorvino.
Yeah, Mira Sorvino. Yeah.
Pauly Sorvino.
She is no. The Mira Suvari.
Yes.
The girl who was in All the American Pies and in American Beauty. She opened up her robe and all the roses came out. That girl. She's every movie she's in has the word American in it, apparently. She's in All the American Pies and in American Beauty. We haven't really heard from her since. But either way, she's 47. Happy birthday to her. Today in 1542, King Henry VIII looked at wife number 6 there, Catherine Howard, and said, off with her head, adultery. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. They had a guillotine and he used it to end marriages. This is a bold move.
Swift decision. Swift.
Let me contact my attorney. Oh,
No need.
guess what we got? Today, in 1633, Galileo arrived in Rome to face charges of heresy by the Catholic Church for advocating the theory that the earth revolved around the sun. All I can tell you all these years later, scoreboard, he's got it.
You think you got it tough now when you got to walk into a room and convince somebody, whether there's a sales meeting or anything else. I mean, think about that. Galileo's being challenged on that. That's what the world was.
We got people challenging folks on like vaccines, and guess what? Measles, everybody. Here you go, you fucking morons. All right, let's see. Today in 1906, a patent was issued to Alfred Einhorn for his synthetic procreine, which became Novocaine. Happy birthday, Novocaine, today.
So I was asked this question decades ago. I was asked this question, and I didn't think as brilliant an answer was. Someone said, "What do you think is the greatest discovery of all time, Sam?" And I was scratching my head and whatever. He quickly came up with. He said anesthesia. And yeah, you know what? And Novocaine's in that conversation. I mean, to be able to have a surgery and to be numbed in a way where you're not feeling what's actually happening, that really is magic.
That's big.
That is magic.
That's big. That's big. You're going to want that. You're not going to want to have open heart surgery.
You're going to need that. You're going to need that.
Today in 1965, with her little bob cut, 16-year-old Peggy Fleming won over the entire world of figure skating at Lake Placid. She became a household name for the remainder of her life. Today in 1993, not the Olympic Games, but as far as our generation is concerned, much more important than the Olympic Games, Double Dare had its last episode ever. Today in 1993, Double Dare as a game show ended on Nickelodeon. What a shame.
Double Dare was so great. I watched so much of it. And was it Mark Hamill? Is that his name? Double Dare. They
Mark
played.
Hamill was Mark Summers.
Summers. Sorry, I had Hamill's the Olympian. Yes, Mark Summers. His kids played Little League, where I did at West Hills Baseball, and that there was no bigger celebrity in the world at that time.
Forget it. I mean, that's when he was doing all the Food Network stuff too. One of the greatest days I ever had on the radio. I stopped talking sports for 2 hours, and we had Mark Summers come in because my old producer Albie was his nephew. So we had 2 hours of Mark Summers. We did an hour on Food Network and then an hour on Double Dare. And I asked him the questions. I'm like, how many moms, how many MILFs threw themselves at you to get their kids onto Double Dare? He's like, I don't want to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. But we want to know. We do want to know.
Let's see. Today in 2000, on the day after he died, February 12th, on February 13th in 2000, the last original Peanuts comic strip was printed in newspapers after Charles Schultz's death. And the only thing that I can tell you is that I understand that he is beloved for that comic strip, but the final Peanuts cartoon strip sucked just as much as every single one of them did. Peanuts sucks. It's for loser kids. They're the biggest group of fucking nobody losers in the history of comic strips. Charlie Brown is utterly pathetic every day of his existence. Snoopy was cool, maybe, kinda. Peanuts sucked. It's the Winnie the Pooh of sucking in if you're raising a kid who likes Winnie the Pooh or the Peanuts, your kid is going to get bullied. I'm telling you. Keep your kid away from these pussy losers.
How can I follow that? I love that you have that in your arsenal.
I hate Peanuts. I hate Linus in his blanket, and then Lucy just pulling footballs and argue. I'm a psychologist. You got the kid who's just so filthy, Pigpen. He's walking around with a dust bowl all the time. What the hell was that? Losers, all of them.
I just
Fuck you, Charles Schultz.
I just want to take this in. That's it.
Just God. I hate the Peanuts. Always have, always will. I'll bring it up whenever you ask me.
Peanut allergy.
Today in 2002, Rudy Giuliani received an honorary knighthood from Queen Elizabeth. You think they don't want to take that one back? You think you want to take that one back?
Wow.
How about this? Also, same day in 2002, while that nonsense was happening in England, the Scottish Parliament passed a Protection of Wild Mammals bill, which made fox hunting illegal in Scotland.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. Yeah, fox hunting always seemed a tad cruel.
Well, I've never had, here's why. I've never, and I've had a lot of interesting food in my life. No one has ever served me fox.
No.
That's not something delicious that I'm missing. Yeah.
So rabbits, that's Hassenpfeffer, right?
Sure.
I mean, I can't even name a single fox dish.
No, you're not going to find it. So I don't need it.
Yeah, as I'm thinking about it, I just,
we've made it this far, Damon, in our lives. We've accomplished a lot. We've eaten a lot. We've had a lot of opinions about food in our lives, and that never hit our desk.
I think it was the foxtail. They were after the tail there, I guess.
Right. Oxtail, not foxtail, but oxtail. So
a today in history that is foreboding of the future. We're going to go to today in 2029. Has not happened yet, but they track these things. And apparently today in 2029, a Phosphis, which is an asteroid that will pass the Earth closer than our own satellites pass the Earth. It is going to come by on a trajectory that we will all see it touch our atmosphere on February 13th, 2029. The chances of that being the meteor that actually impacts the Earth could happen, but that won't happen until 2036. So, Sam, we got at least 10 more years. That's what I'm trying to say. We're wrapping up.
2029 was feeling, 29 was feeling a little urgent for me. I didn't need that. Yeah.
By the way, Smiley Dan just wants to put out there, Megan Fox.
Delicious dish.
Megan Fox. Absolutely. Yes. Sammy, have yourself a great rest of your day. It was so good to catch up with you, man. I hate when we have to skip weeks. You were busy. I was busy. Super Bowl made things busy. You're just a busy guy. But now that the NHL is shut down, he's got a little bit more time and he gave it to us. Thank you, my friend. Great to see you. Everybody, sign up for Thinking Out Loud with Siciliano and Sam. Make sure that you are liked and subscribed to Damon Bruce. Plus, thank you to Ike's of Ike Sandwiches. Thank you to the Dubliner West Portal. Thanks to our friends at Sleeper. Thanks to all of you. And please do remember that sports don't build character. They reveal it. Peanuts sucks. And like that, this is a drive-by on Charlie Brown today. Like that, he's gone.